Alexander Volkanovski is our featherweight champion. What's up, boys? We are back. UFC 314 has just concluded, and it ended off with Alexander Volkanovski defeating Diego Lopez via decision. And what a time it is, dude. My Volk got the belt back. My Volk is our champion. It feels good, dude. It really does to say that Volkanovski is our champion. If you told me a year ago that Volk would be your champion after you got knocked out by Ilia Topuria, I would have called you crazy, dude. Volkanovski broke the 36 and older curse. He broke the Drake curse. He broke so many curses. He got it done, dude. I feel bad for Diego Lopez. We'll talk about that fight a little bit later, though. But today, we're going to be giving you guys my reaction to some of the fights, my predictions. And before we get into it, make sure to subscribe, because we're trying to hit 800 subscribers by the end of the year. It would mean a lot if you can go ahead and subscribe. But the first fight I do want to talk about is Chase Hooper and Jim Miller. So I'll go ahead and give you guys what I had for my prediction last week. But before Jim Miller's last fight at UFC 309, that guy got pieced up by King Green, dude. And Bobby Green, well, his last couple fights, they haven't gone so well. So that loss for Jim Miller has aged horribly. And I just don't know how good he is now, dude. I honestly do not know how good he is. So for this one, I am going to go with Chase Hooper. You know, I think Jim Miller has the craftiness. He has the ability to take this to the distance and maybe not get submitted by Chase Hooper. So Chase Hooper by decision. So like I said Jim Miller had been pieced up by King Ring. We honestly did not know how good Jim Miller was going into this fight. You know, Jim Miller is pretty good on the ground, you know, but also Chase Hooper is, dude. Chase Hooper has amazing jiu-jitsu. He competes in jiu-jitsu tournaments on the side. And Chase Hooper won it, dude. He was just better than Jim Miller. Jim Miller's a crafty vet, but he wasn't crafty enough to take down Chase Hooper enough. I think we should give Chase Hooper a top 15, dude. He deserves it. He didn't call for a top 15 shot, but I do think we should give him a top 15 shot. He did technically call out Fares Yami, but I don't really think the UFC would give two prospects a fight against each other. I think that's dumb. And at the end, in the post-fight interview, Chase Hooper said he was gooning too much this fight camp. So, I mean, we can all relate to that. We can all relate to Chase Hooper in this instance. Moving on, though, we did have Dan Ige versus Sean Woodson. I'll go ahead and give you guys my predictions for that. I don't know how Dan Ige is going to do, dude. I do want to say that Sean Woodson is going to win. I like Sean Woodson, but something's telling me that Dan Ige is going to pull this off. Give me Dan Ige by second round TKO. That was my prediction. I didn't talk much about it, but I did have Dan Ige winning, dude. I just thought Dan Ige was going to be better throughout the fight. Sean Woodson's a boring fighter, you know. He has an extremely long reach, and he throws a leg kick, a jab now and then, and that's not enough to win a fight against Dan Ige. Dan Ige, he landed a nice overhand in that third round. The judges had him 2-0 up. I actually had 1-1, but it's whatever. Like I said, Dan Ige landed a nice overhand. He rocked Sean Woodson, and eventually, after a little bit of sequence, it led to Sean Woodson going for a takedown. Dan Ige stuffed the takedown and just was pounding on Sean Woodson's head. I think 5-6 unanswered shots to the head, and it was stopped. You know, a lot of people were saying it was a bad stoppage. Yeah, maybe it was a little bit iffy. After rewatching it back a couple times, it's not that bad, dude. Moving on to the next fight, we do have Dominic Reyes versus Nikita Krylov. Dude, here's my prediction for that fight. I just feel like, I'm going to do it. Dominic Reyes, dude, don't forget what Dominic Reyes did to John Jones. He has good takedown defensive. Nikita Krylov is going to try to take this to the floor. And for some reason, I can see Dominic Reyes getting like a TKO, a weird stoppage, maybe a doctor stoppage, maybe a freaky finish, like a finish where Nikita Krylov's not completely out, maybe an early stoppage. Dominic Reyes, though, we'll say, first round, something's going to happen crazy in this fight. I just know it. Man, I predict these things, bro. I predict these things, dude, exactly like I said. I said something freaky would happen in the first round. I knew it. I just predicted that, dude. I said maybe an early stoppage would happen, but obviously that didn't happen. That definitely was not an early stoppage. Nikita Krylov was out, and he was out cold. You know, I feel like going to this fight, a lot of people just chose Nikita Krylov based on aura, I guess, dude. I mean, Nikita Krylov had nothing going for him, dude. I don't understand. Nikita Krylov was getting out-grappled by Ryan Spann. You know, I know Dominic Reyes got knocked out by Ryan Spann, but that's not my point, dude. Nikita Krylov's not that good. I'm sorry. He's not that good. And maybe that's just recency bias. But still, dude, people don't watch tape on fights before they predict them. I do. Nikita Krylov, in a lot of instances, he just blitzes forward with his chin up. Dominic Reyes is one of the best counter strikers we have seen in the light heavyweight division. People don't realize this, dude. They just pick Nikita Krylov because everyone else is picking Nikita Krylov. You actually have to think about fight styles, because fight styles make fights, dude, and that's it. But yeah, dude, I'm really happy I stuck with Dominic Reyes. I was maybe scared I was gonna choose Krylov at the last second, but you know, I predicted Dominic Reyes, and now Dominic Reyes he's deserving a lot, dude. I'm excited to see how Dominic Reyes' career goes from here. But the next fight I do have is Gene Silva versus Bryce Mitchell, and I made the mistake of putting this my prediction for that fight as a thumbnail and title of my video. I thought Bryce Mitchell was really going to win it, dude. I really did just believe Bryce Mitchell was going to win this fight, and I was wrong. I was terribly wrong, dude. I just thought Bryce Mitchell would honestly just fight better out of anger. I thought Bryce Mitchell was just going to be able to hold him down longer. But Gene Silva, you know, I've seen a lot of people's reactions to UFC 314. Lucas Tracy, Bedtime MMA, Kenny Okoye. None of them are quite frankly talking about Gene Silva enough. Gene Silva, he absolutely decimated Bryce Mitchell. That's worse than Ilia Topuria did Bryce Mitchell, 100%, dude. We have never seen Bryce Mitchell dominated like that in the UFC. Just all around, Gene Silva pretty much put Bryce Mitchell asleep in that first round with a guillotine. I actually thought Bryce Mitchell was out, and I think he actually was. But he just dominated him, dude. He knocked him down in that second round. He let him get him back up. And then eventually it led to Bryce Mitchell just getting choked out by a ninja choke. Gene Silva really is that good, dude. I promise you guys this. You know, I said he was a future champion 100% a couple months ago when he fought Melkdek Bashidov. And I switched up on him. I shouldn't have switched up on him for this fight. But yeah, dude, Gene Silva is the real deal. I will never bet against Gene Silva again. Moving on, we did have Pitbull versus Yair Rodriguez. Here's my prediction for that fight. For some reason, Patricio Pitbull getting like some weird decision. Maybe it's a close decision, but I feel like they're gonna give it to Patricio Pitbull, dude. I said Yair Rodriguez did good against Volk, and I said Yair Rodriguez did good against Volk when he was using his leg kicks, when he was just throwing leg kicks from every angle possible. And I was just comparing Pitbull and Volk. Very similar reach, very similar height. I thought they were going to be very similar fights for Yair Rodriguez, but Yair Rodriguez just completely outclassed Pitbull. 30-27, Yair Rodriguez knocked him down. I'll give Pitbull this. In that third round, Pitbull did threaten Yair Rodriguez with an armbar. A really nice armbar he threw up, but, you know, Yair Rodriguez was able to get out of it. I predicted Pitbull. I don't know why I predicted Pitbull, dude. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I thought there was a chance that Pitbull could pull it off. You know, the Bellator guys have plot armor in their debut. MVP. Who else, dude? Who did another Bellator? Kayla Harrison, dude. Michael Chandler. All those guys have plot armor in their debut. So, obviously, that wasn't the case with Pitbull, but I'm excited to see where Pitbull goes from here. Also, Yair Rodriguez has a very fun potential matchup with Diego Lopez looming, which I will make a video about very soon. But, yeah, dude, that was a fun fight. Now, moving on to the co-main event, Paddy Pimblett versus Michael Chandler, dude. This was my prediction for this fight. Paddy Pimblett, he's a scouser. He does not get knocked out. But, honestly, I am going to go with Michael Chandler for this one, dude. I'm sorry, dude. I'm not going to forget how good Michael Chandler is. Every single fight Michael Chandler's been in, Dustin Poirier, he was about to win against Dustin Poirier. He rocked Dustin Poirier. Gaethje, he rocked Gaethje. He was about to win against Gaethje. Charles Oliveira, twice. He was about to win against Charles Oliveira, and he lost. It's so frustrating watching this guy fight, but Michael Chandler has to mix in his fighting styles. Paddy Pimblett, I don't see much going for him, dude. I don't see Chandler getting submitted. You know, if Charles Oliveira couldn't submit Chandler, then why is Paddy Pimblett going to submit Chandler? And yeah, dude, Michael Chandler, he's a scouser, so he's not going to knock out Paddy Pimblett. But Michael Chandler by decision, dude. Okay, dude, I was really wrong about that. And this was one of the fights that I was honestly the most confident in, dude. I actually really just thought from the bottom of my heart that Michael Chandler just was gonna piece Paddy Pimblett up. I thought Paddy Pimblett's striking was just way too green. I thought Michael Chandler was just gonna completely outclass him in every aspect: the wrestling, the grappling, the striking. Instead, Paddy Pimblett did that to him, dude. I said Chandler needed to be more aggressive. I literally said Michael Chandler needed to be more aggressive than he was in that Charles Oliveira fight. And he didn't do that. Michael Chandler just cannot fight a patient style. That is not how Michael Chandler fights. And I said he needed to mix in an aggressive style with a somewhat patient style. At some moments he needed to be aggressive, and at some moments he needed to be patient. But Michael Chandler, I don't even know if he knew he was fighting today. Michael Chandler just absolutely sucked, dude. I'm just scared. I don't even know what to do with Michael Chandler anymore. He's 2-5 in the UFC. Was he ever that good? I don't know, dude. That's not for me to talk about today, dude. But Paddy Pimblett, dude. Paddy Pimblett. What a performance, dude. It honestly just looks like Michael Chandler took a dive against Paddy Pimblett. But Paddy Pimblett, 30-27, absolutely dominated Michael Chandler. You know, Michael Chandler was one shot away from a world title, and Michael Chandler just got embarrassed by Paddy Pimblett. You know, if you were to tell me 5 years ago that Paddy Pimblett would have knocked out Michael Chandler, technically TKO, I would have called you crazy, dude. And that's the world we're living in now, dude. Ilia Topuria versus Paddy Pimblett for the title is coming up, dude. We're cooked. And obviously the main event, Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. This was my prediction for that fight. But like I said, dude, Volk has the ability to out-cardio Diego Lopez. Volk probably will out-cardio Diego Lopez. His technical ability, he's able to just fight at range, and that sounds crazy because he's a midget, but his reach is pretty good. He did it against Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez, a tall striker who throws leg kicks pretty consistently. He pieced up Yair Rodriguez. Spot on, dude. I was honestly spot on, dude. I just thought that Volkanovski throughout the 5 rounds I wasn't really that worried for Volk's chin, dude. And before the fight, I wasn't worried for Volk's chin. All right, during the fight, Volk was getting into some hefty sequences with Diego Lopez, dude. Volk was throwing down with Diego Lopez, which I was actually really surprised about. I was thinking that Volk was just gonna be scared. He was gonna not get in the pocket at all with Diego Lopez, but you know, some sequences he did go in the pocket with Diego Lopez, and majority of those sequences he did get the better of. In that, at the end of that second round, he did get dropped. It didn't really mean anything though. He recovered pretty quickly, and throughout the fight, he just dominated. I think 2 judges gave it 49-46, and 1 judge gave it 48-47. So it was not that close of a fight. But looking at the scorecards, you might assume so. You know, this is a fun fight, dude. And Diego Lopez, you will be back. But Alexander Volkanovski, dude, this was your last chance, and I'm so happy to say that Alexander Volkanovski is our featherweight champion in 2025. Life's good, man. UFC 314 was a banger. I don't know what can stop this high for me. Thank you guys for watching. MMA Outpost out.